nation's commercial capital. This is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reported tonight,
Ijoma Oyato.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, National Assembly calls for stronger action against Boko Haram as members resume after recess. President Goodluck Jonathan appeals to NUT leaders to order colleagues back to the classrooms. 12 Nigerian army soldiers convicted for mutiny. They are to face firing squad. And conflicting death toll in Synagogue church collapse as South African President Jacob Zuma puts figure of dead nationals at 67.
On business news tonight, Federal Account Allocation Committee distributes 611 billion naira between federal, state and local government areas for the month of August.
On sports news tonight, action resumes in the UEFA Champions League. Bavarian giants Bayern Munich gear up for epic clash against Manchester City in Wednesday's matches.
A new controversy has been thrown up in the number of those who died at the Synagogue church collapse. The South African President Jacob Zuma today released a statement claiming that 67 South Africans were among the casualties. The statement from the South African presidency says it's been a long time since the country lost such a large number of its citizens in one incident outside South Africa. In the words of President Zuma, our thoughts are with the families, friends and colleagues that have lost their loved ones in this heartbreaking tragedy. We're all in grief, end of quote. He also thanked the federal government of Nigeria for their support during this time and sent condolences to Nigerians and all other nations affected by the tragedy. President Zuma reassured family members of South Africans who died that they will be flown to Nigeria to identify the bodies of their loved ones and repatriate the remains as soon as possible under the circumstances. Now, President Zuma's statement, however, contradicts the submission of the National Emergency Management Agency that a total of 63 bodies have so far been recovered. A spokesman of NEMA told Channels Television at the scene of the collapse today that 131 people were rescued alive. One of them was the miraculous escape of a 45-year-old woman whom NEMA said walked out of the rubble with minor injuries.
There was operation throughout the night, and in the course of the operation, we succeeded in getting a woman out, an average woman of 45 years old. She came out strong and heavy. She only had little injury on her wrist. Within the rubble, there are spaces under, so which gave her room to live and have fresh air throughout the period she stayed there.
We are happy to have identified the rods through 3 local manufacturers that are in this country that have our approved identification marks, and that is exactly what we are doing. We are trying to take the samples for further investigation. Beyond the mechanical properties is what you call the chemical composition. We need to know how the manufacturer mixed the various components of the steel. It is a combination of factors that could lead to a failure. It could be the materials were not of the right specification that was used. It may be that the material was not used the way it's supposed to be used. Because if you are supposed to use 20 mm rod and you use 16, of course, you're already doing substandard practice. And that is why we cannot conclude our investigation here. We need to talk to the people, the skills, the people who handle the project, the contractor, the engineers that were on site.
Let's move on to security matters now. The Nigerian government today sealed an arms deal with the European Union and ECOWAS as the government steps up the fight against terror. This collaboration is aimed at fostering relationships among agreed parties in relation to arms. The ECOWAS President, Kadri Ouedraogo, says the project will also strengthen initiatives within West Africa aimed at reducing the proliferation of illegal arms.
This is one of the several projects launched in recent times to curb the rising waves of terrorism and other crimes escalated by proliferation of illegal arms in the West Africa. The ECOWAS community, the European Union, and the United Nations delegations believe that recent surge in terrorism across West Africa can be reduced through this project. According to the officials, this intervention is aimed at supporting efforts to maintain regional peace and stability, which has been threatened recently by terrorism.
This action will continue to be one of our regional priorities and is now necessary due to the fact that proliferation of small arms, emerging threats of terrorism, organized crime, and cross-border trafficking have actually increased within the past 3 years across the West African region.
We have to say that the illicit and uncontrolled spread of small arms and light weapons represents a major threat to the security of states, communities and individuals in West Africa. It is estimated that some 8 million small arms are currently circulating in the region.
The European Union, in agreement with ECOWAS, is putting over €5 million into this project that will be managed by the United Nations Development Programme. They are confident that if well managed, the project is capable of restoring peace and stability in the troubled regions of West Africa.
I wish to commend the EU for their continued support to ECOWAS and commitment to assisting in the promotion of sub-regional peace and security. I also want to express my profound appreciation to ECOWAS for recognizing UNDP as a partner in implementation of this important project. I'm therefore confident that this project will achieve the expected results within the project time frame to serve as reference point for other interventions.
Some of the activities of this project will include raising community awareness on the dangers associated with the proliferation of small arms and armed violence in the region. It will also strengthen security and encourage voluntary weapons surrender and collection in return for community-based development projects.
Well, in the meantime, the National Assembly is asking the President to declare total war on the Boko Haram insurgents. Senators took the decision to give President Goodluck Jonathan the green light after an extensive debate on the security situation in the country. The House of Representatives also considered a motion on the matter and resolved to meet with the President. Our correspondent Lanre Lasisi reports.
Now, coming back from recess, lawmakers immediately got down to work. The Senate President, in his welcome speech, touched on the growing atrocities of the Boko Haram sect and the need for decisive action on the part of government.
The Boko Haram sect has in no unmistaken terms declared a total war on Nigeria and Nigerians. We must come out with clear, concise, and unequivocal mission statement on how to win this war. We must, as a matter of urgency, fish out all the financiers of these terrorists and all collaborators, wherever they are, and bring them to book.
He said it's not time for trading blame, but for a united front against the insurgents. These views were also expressed by other senators when the matter came up as a motion.
40 days today, Goza was taken over. Our emir is a refugee in Abuja, and the new emir that they call Amir is being installed in Goza.
Once the Senate gives us the go-ahead to see the president, among some of the resolutions that we should bring home is suspension of all electioneering activities until this war is finally and permanently won.
The motion was passed unanimously, with the Senate resolving to send a delegation to President Goodluck Jonathan on the matter.
No difference between the situation in the Northeast now and if any other country had declared war on Nigeria. So this is not, I don't think we have to mince words at all about what we want to do. I think my suggestion here is, how do we prosecute this war? Because there is a real war.
Meanwhile, in the House of Representatives, a motion on the same matter was considered.
This is a very serious threat to the territorial integrity of this country. It's a very serious threat to the corporate existence of this country. All of us here swore by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to jealously guard and protect the territorial integrity of this country.
But after some lawmakers spoke, the House went into a closed-door meeting. After over an hour, the House agreed on these resolutions.
The House has agreed and mandated the leadership of the House and Committee on Defense to meet with the leadership of the Senate and Committee on Defense of the Senate for us to engage the executive arm of government on how best we can give our maximum legislative support to address the current situation in the Northeast.
The House also resolved to step up legislative diplomacy with other countries that have had similar experiences with insecurity. The lawmakers will also raise funds for internally displaced persons from the affected area. Landry Lasese, Channels Television News.
12 soldiers have been sentenced to death after a Nigerian army court-martial found them guilty of attempted murder. The men will be put to death by firing squad for directly shooting at the former general officer commanding the 7th Division in Borno State, Major General Ahmed Mohammed. Military authorities arraigned 18 soldiers with the charges ranging from mutiny and attempted murder to insubordination. Our correspondent Amaka Ukafo reports.
The 18 soldiers were arraigned on 6-count charges bordering on mutiny on the 14th of May 2014. They were charged with opening fire on the car carrying Major General Ahmed Mohammed, the former commanding officer of 7th Division of the Nigerian Army in Maiduguri, Borno State.
Prosecution, please announce your appearances.
Shortly after the arrival of the panel, the president of the court, General Chukwuemeka Okonkwo, proceeded to hand down the judgment of the panel. 12 of the soldiers were found guilty of mutiny, 11 of them were convicted for criminal conspiracy to commit mutiny, disobeying lawful orders, insubordinate behavior, and attempted murder of the former general officer commanding 7th Division, Major General Ahmed Mohammed. However, 5 of the accused soldiers were discharged, while another soldier got a light sentence of 28 days imprisonment with hard labor for absence without leave.
The resistance put up by the soldiers, the demand for the GOC to come and address them, and the resultant shootings were all premeditated and planned at the minimum in the night of 13th May 2014 to the morning of 14th May 2014. Therefore, it will be right and lawful for the court to infer that an agreement to commit mutiny exists. Accordingly, any of the accused persons found guilty of mutiny would equally be found guilty of conspiracy to commit mutiny.
At the end of the judgment, the panel gave an opportunity to the accused lawyers to make plea for mitigation.
My Lord, hereby pleading that their sentences be lessened in severity as seen on the charges.
In spite of the plea, the court handed down the maximum punishment of death by firing squad to 12 of the convicted soldiers. They also backed 2 life sentences for conspiracy to commit mutiny and attempted murder. The panel have acquitted them on the use of abusive language and insubordination, as the prosecution failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt.
Involving the use of violence or the threat of the use of violence, or having as its object or one of its objects the refusal or avoidance of any duty or service against or in connection with operations against the enemy, or the impeding of the performance of the duty or service, or incites any other person subject to service law under this Act to take part in a mutiny, whether actual or intended, is guilty of an offense under this subsection and liable under conviction by court martial to suffer death.
Those found guilty include Corporal Jasper Berdolo, Corporal David Musa, Lance Corporal Friday Onu, Lance Corporal Yusuf Shuaibu Ahmed. Others are Private Alao Samo and Private Alan Linus. Even though the verdict is in, it remains to be seen if the Chief of the Army Staff will confirm it. Only then can it take effect. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, President Jonathan asks NUT to allow teachers resume work. That's in a moment. Join us again.